Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah, get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he's king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, also known as Kyle. WWF Backlash 2002. I'm looking at the title of this show and I'm like, well, what's the backlash about? I mean, it's not very clear. I wish they would put, like the show name before Backlash so I know what the backlash is about, huh? Who's with me, folks? I don't know why I'm doing stand-up comedy here. Sit-down comedy. Yes, Backlash 2002. We are, of course, fresh off the heels off of WrestleMania 18, legendary event. Go check that out in the archives, episode 100 of the Apron Bump. Really fun show, but another fun show here, Backlash 02, kind of a hidden gem. Honestly, I don't think I've ever watched this show before I did last night, and I mean, maybe it's because of that huge monumental show that preceded it, because at WrestleMania, of course, we had The Rock defeat Hulk Hogan. We had Triple H defeat Chris Jericho to become the new undisputed champion. We found out that Edge apparently has better hair than Booker T. And pretty much we're just ramping up to the Ruthless Aggression era. I don't know what I would call this era that we're in right here, because it's not Attitude Era, man. It's not, I guess, kind of Ruthless Aggression era because it's after the draft, but we haven't really kicked in yet. There's still a lot of ironing out that needs to occur, but we're getting there. We're getting there, but definitely a big transition period here for the WWF, and it's honestly it's fascinating to me. As someone that was not watching during the time and has only heard about it secondhand, to watch it firsthand is it's a sight to see. And like I said, Backlash 02, it's I never hear anybody talk about Backlash 2002, but especially the first half of the show, it's just banger after banger after banger. And I don't know if maybe it just doesn't get talked about because it's a lot of first chapters in a lot of stories. Like you have Kurt Angle and Edge, you have RVD and Eddie Guerrero. You also have elements to consider, like Stone Cold is on his way out. I mean, he's only there for a few more months, I think, before he takes his ball and goes back to his Broken Skull Ranch. And Triple H, another obviously major focal point of the company. It's kind of in a transition period himself, because came back, that huge babyface reaction to the Madison Square Garden return and all that. But in this show, you kind of see the cracks start to form. You could kind of see the subtle transitions, the subtle changes in his character that kind of allude to a future heel character for Triple H. And we all know what's coming. We're gonna have a lot of Triple H coming up in this timeline. But we start to see the shift there with him. So again, maybe this show doesn't get talked about because it's a transition in a lot of different ways and a lot of different directions, but it was a fun as hell show to watch. So I would definitely recommend anybody go back and watch this show. It's a great one. Really, really just great in-ring action, which is kind of a new thing for the company, because for the longest time you had very storyline heavy matches, lots of shenanigans and a lot of soap opera kind of stuff. And there's still a lot of that on this show. But like I said, mainly the first half is just that's work rate that would hold up today. And the crowd was into it. But the show, obviously, if you know anything about Backlash 2002, you know how it culminates. And that's with the main event. Triple H, the champion, defending his I almost said universal title, defending his undisputed championship against Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I don't know why we're still calling him Hollywood at this point, because he's not black and white. He's not the NWO guy anymore, but we're still calling him Hollywood Hulk Hogan for whatever reason. But yeah, that main event and the finish of that main event is probably what you remember, if you remember anything about this show. But fun show to watch, and an even funner, I know that's not a word, funner show to talk about with my guest, Kyle Tyson from the Smacked Raw podcast. That's right. On this episode, you get two Kyles, one podcast. So check out Kyle on the Smacked Raw podcast. He does a variety of shows over there, but his main deal as of recently has been the weekly rewind that he does with RN, another past guest on this show. So him and RN do the weekly rewind of wrestling, talking about the hot button topics that are kind of circulating throughout the IWC. So not just a weekly recap, but kind of just a more evergreen general discussion, which I think is fun. So go check that out. That's the Smacked Raw podcast. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Smacked Raw Pod. You can follow Kyle at The Kai Tai Show. I'll put all of that info in the description, as well as the link tree to wherever you would like to listen or watch their podcast. They stream live on Twitch, the weekly rewind. They post stuff on YouTube, and of course you can listen to wherever you listen to podcasts. So go check that out. Really cool dudes over there. Had a fun time with Kyle on this show, and yeah, let's get into it. Let's just get a couple Kyles in a room and smash monsters together. So, WWF Backlash 2002 with myself and Kyle from the Smacked Raw podcast. So you got a chance to watch Backlash 02, huh?
Oh man, talk about a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
man, I was really happy to watch that show again. It brought me back. I mean, seeing some of my childhood, like literally, I think when we say childhood, a lot of the times we're like talking about like teenage years, but I'm talking like literal like child under the age of 10, seeing some of my favorite wrestlers like who was it? Billy Kidman, or just Kidman in WWE. That was awesome seeing him, seeing APA fresh after their breakup, because I didn't realize that Backlash took place only 1 month after the first split, which they were calling, what did they call it?
The brand extension.
Brand extension, yeah,
that
that's
was
right.
Crazy, because it wasn't immediately like Raw versus SmackDown. It was more structured as like a Vince McMahon versus Ric Flair kind of thing. The brands didn't really have their own identities yet. It would be like a few months until that happened, but like, yeah, it's like a weird transition from like the Attitude Era to the Ruthless Aggression Era, where it's not either one. It's kind of like an in between.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, I know. The show was good. It was also nice to see a show that I watched before we became like jaded, over-informed fans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, being able to watch a show and hear a crowd react very naturally. There was no piped in audio. And then also another thing too was, I forgot there was a day and age where there wasn't an abundance of like uniform chants. So it really was just a lot of cheers and boos, with the exception of,
this is awesome.
Yeah, there was no "this is awesome" chants.
Yeah.
Just a lot of loud fans, man.
Natural reactions, like you said.
Yeah.
The crowd was, because Backlash 2002, I don't know if I've ever watched this show before the other night when I watched it. And for the most part, it was a great show. I mean, the crowd was super into pretty much all the matches, not all of them, but especially like the first half of the show, the crowd was super hot. I mean, there were tons of great like work rate because like WWF, at least like Attitude Era, they weren't known for their work rate. They weren't known for like the I guess the physical ability. Really, it's more like the story and the soap opera type stuff. But again, it's like a transition, and they're working their way towards like more of that style because this is like around the time Ring of Honor starts too, and they got a buzz really quick. And I think they over time, the WWE kind of realized that that's kind of what fans wanted. They were kind of over the what did Stone Cold drive in, the fucking ice rink thing. What do you call that? The thing you like drive over? Zamboni, yeah. It's less about the Zambonis and more about the wrestling. So, yeah, like you said, a breath of fresh air, and I enjoyed pretty much the whole show.
By the way, I wonder how many wrestlers to this day have been like, thanks Stone Cold for those what chants, because this was during the time when the what chant was new and fresh and people were enjoying it.
It was heavy.
Yeah.
But Stone Cold knew how to like it was entertaining. Obviously, he's where it originated from, and so he knew how to like play into it.
Yeah. Not everything he got over though was for the better of the business.
No, I don't know if anybody could have guessed that it would.
He'd lead crowds into boring chants. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Poor Lance Storm. Didn't he like pull out like a sleeping bag and a pillow?
He pretended
to
sleep at top of the ramp during one of Lance Storm's matches. Yep.
Gee, I wonder why Lance Storm never got over.
Yeah, Lance Storm is one of those guys that like there's a really large portion of fans that appreciated him after his time. Other wrestlers that I found myself like that with was like William Regal and Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand them growing up while they were active, but experiencing their legacies and their matches after the fact, like as I grew up, and understood not so much the product from a behind the scenes, but like as a full package type deal. Instead of just going for like, like as a teenager, like bloodlust, you know, being able to appreciate all aspects of wrestling, after their legacies and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like if Lance Storm came around a few years later, it'd be a different story with him, but
yeah,
it is what it is. But yeah, so Backlash 02, like I said, I didn't really know a lot about the show going into it, and I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the matches. But I just got one question for you. Are you a Hulkamaniac?
No, man. Furthest thing from it.
Oh no, so you did not like how the show ended, I guess.
No. Well, for one, I am a fan of overbooked finishes. Like to this day, I love a good overbooked match, and at least this match had it. But growing up and to this day, I've never been a fan of Hulk Hogan, and it has nothing to do with any of the outside antics. It's just he's always been like my dad's. Like, and I don't mean this in a literal sense, but it's like my dad's generation of wrestling. The golden age stuff, I never got into it. My fandom of pro wrestling starts in the mid 90s. Stuff before then had a really hard time capturing my attention. Now, granted, if you were a guy with like a high work rate back in the 80s and stuff, I'm still a fan. Like I'll go back and watch Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat, and I love their stuff. But a Hulk Hogan match, honestly, his matches offer the least amount of variety to what you're going to get from an in-ring standpoint. And so it's always been hard for me to get behind it because he essentially has always told the same story. Yeah. It's always the same babyface story with him overcoming some odds or the same heel tactics. So I just never got into it. And then you combine that with Triple H, who I adore Triple H, but back in the day, when he was, it was him, The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. He was always bottom of the totem pole for me. So putting these two guys in the main event was just like a snooze fest till the finish for me.
Dude, I'm totally with you. And it's like, I don't know, man. Triple H versus Hulk Hogan. That doesn't even sound like a match that happened. First of all, it's just like, yeah, it's just what you would expect too. Like when before, like going into it, it's like exactly it met my expectations at least, and that is not a good thing. So, but yeah, Triple H is in a transition period himself. I mean, we're only a few months away from Evolution. He's still kind of going with the momentum of his return from his injury carried through WrestleMania. Now we're at the point where it's like, okay, Triple H, we need a little something different from you, and boy, did we get
He
it.
did have that cool. Remember that I don't think he pulled it off in this match, although he could have, and I missed it. He had that cool like strangle takedown that he adopted when he came back. Like some guy be running at him, kind of like how like The Rock like would hit a spine buster, but instead Triple H would just grab him by their fucking throat and just drive him into the ground. I always thought that was a pretty neat move. And it's funny because it's like the least babyface move, and he adopted it as a babyface.
Yeah. Well, he had great intensity.
The piss out of you.
Yeah. it's like he's trying to be realistic, I guess. I mean, that's how you would fight somebody. You just rip them down and choke them with your soaking wet body.
Hey, I got to say something.
Please.
A couple general thoughts before we do the match rundown. Aesthetically, Backlash has always been my favorite pay-per-view.
The hooks.
With the swinging hooks.
Man,
bring them back. Maybe the exception, it might only be bested by Armageddon 2000. But Backlash has always been my favorite. It was crazy to see WWF New York still up and running.
Oh,
that was interesting. And then lastly, with the exception of one match, and I'll give my thoughts on that match. All the champions had the second entrance. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in the current product.
I'm with you.
Having champions be the first entrance. And so that was one of the refreshing things, seeing that Kidman as the cruiserweight champion had the second entrance, and then that followed throughout the rest of the night, with the exception of one match.
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't even notice that, but it's probably because it usually sticks out like a sore thumb when that doesn't happen. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I'm with you on the set, man. They do need to bring back like I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but when every show looks the same, it doesn't feel like you're watching a pay-per-view. It feels like you're watching another TV show.
And I'm not even gonna lie, this was probably the least dramatic Backlash set. 02. I don't remember how many years they kept the swinging hooks, but it really did. Like I took a moment to objectively look at it. It really did just look like an episode of Raw, but they hung up some hooks. They put a little bit of effort, and I appreciated that.
And they were dynamic hook. They were moving too. So like somebody would walk through it, and then they would like a pendulum like back and forth like as people were walking through, which is really cool. That's like another element that they didn't need to add, but they did.
Yes.
But it gave the show an identity, and 2001 Backlash 2001 is the one that I think of when I think of Backlash, and they had a similar deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was good shit there too. But this cruiserweight title match, man, it's the cruiserweight division. It's like starting to kick off at this point. They just recently retired the light heavyweight title. I think like X-Pac. There was, because during the invasion they had to deal with, there was the light heavyweight and the cruiserweight, and so whoever
they really had an overabundance of titles because they weren't specific to one show or another.
Yeah, no, they had I think because they had like 2 world titles. They had the U.S. Intercontinental. They had 2 sets of tag team titles. The women, 2 sets of light heavyweight. The hardcore, the European, and I'm probably even missing some too. It was crazy, but they definitely they just got rid of the U.S. title, which they bring back, I think, in sometime in 03. But that works out with the different brands and different titles, and they're still in the process of figuring that out. Because at this point, there's only one women's title and one men's world's title, and basically whoever holds those belts can go back and forth between brands. What do you think about that concept? Because that's something I hear people bring up nowadays, like they should bring that back.
I think they should, especially for the women's.
Yeah.
I feel like, but if you did it for the women's, why wouldn't you do it for the men's? You'd hear that argument, especially nowadays. No, I mean, I'm for it. I really am. I wouldn't mind a little bit. I'm one of those people that I do not want to see the brand split end. but I do want to see more action with the titles. And if you unified the titles, tag teams, the women's, the men's, leave the mid-card titles alone, US and Intercontinental, leave those. It would force the writers to be more original with their storytelling, I believe. You would have more stories that are not surrounded by belts, and I think it could work. You know, I'm not paid to do this stuff, so it's I could be wrong,
Right.
but I'd like to see it. I really wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, I'd like to see like a TV title or like one of the existing titles kind of featured in that vein where it's defended on TV like on a weekly basis. Would love to see the Cruiserweight title return, but I don't think that's going to be happening, at least to the main roster.
Look how fondly people hold John Cena's reign doing that open challenge.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I don't know if you should say you'd have a title that has to have a weekly open challenge, but having something similar take place to that now, I mean, it worked so good then, it is kind of a wonder why it ever stopped.
Yeah.
Once Del Rio got his hands on that belt, and I don't think John Cena got it back. I think he moved on from there. But
I think so, yeah. Well, anything Del Rio touches turns to shit, so.
Yeah,
Won't even touch on that one. But yeah, in the Cruiserweight title too. I mean, it was constantly featured on pay-per-views, most of the time an opening match, but it's always a great thing to open the show with. That was a formula that WCW kind of took a hold of for many years, and that's what a lot of people liked about WCW. So good to see WWE do it here. By the way, I say WWE. This is their last. So I think it's in 2 weeks after this is when they officially switched to WWE.
Yeah, I did not think to look that up, but yeah, still WWF.
Yes, this is the last pay-per-view, unless you count Insurrection, the UK one, under WWF, which is pretty interesting. But the match itself, so we got Jiri out here. So we got heel Jiri. He's out there with Tori Wilson, who he's forcing Tori to wear this, what do you call it? It's a robe.
Kimono.
Kimono, right. And he's like a geisha, that kind of attire. And she's being forced to wear it. She because, I don't know, and Tajiri's
she's contractually his girlfriend?
That's how they explained it. They're like,
yeah.
Well, why can't you just leave him? But nope, she can't.
We remember how horny the King was. I think oftentimes we forget JR was that way too, because now JR wasn't quite as forward, but it did stick out to me in this match. The King, being very upset that Tori Wilson is being covered up, and on a couple times, JR would chime in that he agrees with him. But it made also sense too from a storytelling standpoint that it was essentially a babyface female, being held down by the heel in the story. But yeah, how do you feel about the overly sexualized product that we had back in the Attitude Era that actually went on for a long time? Beyond that, how does that feel like watching it now in 2021?
Look, at the time, I don't remember having a problem with it. That being said, I was 02, so I was 9 years old. So I don't remember it being as because you watch it in 2021, obviously, in the society we're in, it sticks out like a sore thumb. But this is
very minor in comparison to the stuff they did. This was men upset that this woman was wearing a robe. That's all it was.
You could have played a drinking game with, take a drink every time Lawler says something along the lines of, why would you keep a body like that under a robe?
Yes.
Holy shit, King, we hear you.
You were drunk. You were drunk before the second match of the night, man.
It's like, God, it's like they were force feeding it. I don't know what it was, but yeah, it's like you said, it's pretty minor, but that's unfortunately where we were as a society back then. It wasn't just wrestling, it was everywhere, and it fit, which is pretty unfortunate. But yeah, but it's funny because I've watched some of the TV shows after this pay-per-view, some of the Raws and SmackDowns, and it's 2 weeks after this where she just takes her robe off and leaves them. So it's I guess that's when the contract ended. Don't know, but I guess they were done with that. Um, frees up Tori to go have lesbian sex with Dawn Marie, I guess. But
Oh man. Oh man.
what a time.
Dude, that was like peak as a teenager. Like, are they gonna show it? Like, just like if they're ever gonna go beyond that line in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
My dumbass horny self as a teenager was like,
Well, hey man, porn was hard to get your hands on back then, or harder,
oh
I
my
guess.
gosh.
You had to.
You ain't lying, man. We had to watch remember it was like Scrambled.
Oh, I've watched a few Channel 77 scrambled porn in my day.
Yeah.
Like, what genders are they? Who knows? It's sex. That's enough for me.
You don't even know if an actual scene is taking place. You try to make do with like the scrambled audio too.
Yeah, you got that imagination, man. It's a powerful thing.
God.
But yeah, there is wrestling here, by the way. You might not know it if you're just listening to the commentary, but there's good wrestling. Cruiserweight action. Billy Kidman to Jiri. Tajiri as a heel. What'd you think of Tajiri as a heel? Because he came in as like the lovable, foreign, don't speak English guy, and now he's this evil Japanese, woman abuser. So it's kind of a
Yeah. You know what's funny is everyone remembers Tajiri from his run being opposite of William Regal.
Yeah.
Right? Being just the lovable foreigner. I remember him as a heel, and this was pretty light. And then honestly, there wasn't much in this match that made him out to be a heel outside of the color of his mist. Because he's always been like in the ring, he's always been the same guy. I mean, even as a babyface, he would use the tarantula, which is an illegal move, and run it to the ring count. So there really wasn't much to him in this match that struck as heel. And that's why I think commentary pushed the whole thing with Tori so much.
Yeah.
It was commentary's job to cover up, to show that he's a heel, because if you played this match like on mute, you wouldn't be able to tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy, in my opinion. A lot of heavy strikes to the head. I love that aspect, a ruthless style.
Yeah.
And then getting the win, countering a power bomb with the red mist.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, like you said, as far as like seeing him as a heel, it never quite fit because of how well he played that role with William Regal. But I don't think that was a huge aspect of this match, like in a bubble. I think this match was just, if you didn't see anything before or afterwards, this was just a well-crafted match.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you as far as like his style not really changing, but it is like a thing where when he's babyface, he's generally the underdog. He's generally the guy getting his ass kicked for the entire match.
That is true. He was pretty dominant.
I almost kind of want to compare it to Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson in a way, in that they're both great babyfaces and great heels. But Tajiri, even though he's kind of a smaller guy, he's like very believable because, like you said, his kicks. I mean, I don't know if anybody has better kicks than Tajiri, like then or now. Believable.
Watching it now as an adult and understanding what goes into learning how to kick like that accurately and how like the flexibility of it. I do remember watching this match and being impressed. I was picturing myself. I was like, that guy's got to be kicking like the heavy bag and targets like frequently, like behind the scenes. You don't just go out there and wing it and be that good. It was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, even at this point, he's been going for a while, I think. So he's definitely perfected that craft. So good shit. And yeah, the red mist, I'm glad you brought that up. It's no longer green. So I guess is red mist heel mist?
That's the way I interpreted it.
As long as it's not black mist, Yeah. It's a while before he breaks that out. But yeah, like you said, Tajiri, red mist to the eyes of Kidman, rolls him up for the win. New cruiserweight champion. And big fan of Tajiri. We're pretty close to like Rey Mysterio coming in and Matt Hardy version 1. So the cruiserweight division is really going to be one of my favorite parts of like the rest of the 2002 and 2003.
Also, fun fact, just because I know you're a little bit younger than me. Did you know that part of like Rey Mysterio's breakout years was being in a tag team with Billy Kidman?
I do. They had a match against the world's greatest tag team, or might have been Team Angle at the time. I forget.
This is in WCW though. Before Ray ever joined WWE, I'm talking like baby Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Part of one of his biggest pushes, like biggest exposure, and booms in popularity. Him and Billy Kidman were a cruiserweight tag team in WCW. Fun fact, Rey Mysterio was my first ever favorite wrestler, and Billy Kidman was his tag team partner. And I must have been like 8 or 9. But yeah, they were a tag team in WCW. I want to say Billy Kidman turned on Ray. But this is so many years and so many drinks ago. Like, God help me try to remember that shit. But I just remember it because like they were like technically my first ever favorite tag team.
Wasn't that when they had the cruiserweight tag team titles?
Now at this point I don't know. Like I told you everything I remember.
All those brain cells are long gone.
Gone, my friends.
I mean, the first time I saw them as a tag team was in Ready to Rumble. So
Jeez Louise, yeah.
that was when Ray was unmasked. Billy was, his wife beater, all that. So,
oh yeah. By the way, I hate to say it, Billy should have kept the wife beater jorts look.
Yeah,
I think that's like his best look he ever did was jean shorts.
Mm-hmm. That set him apart.
It really did. No, it really did.
But at least, I guess when he turns heel eventually, and then he has like the glittery jacket, and then it's all downhill from there. But we got a barn burner after that. Bradshaw versus Scott Hall.
This is when WWE was realizing, okay, only Hulk Hogan is working out of this NWO return.
Mm-hmm. Kevin
Nash couldn't wrestle. Scott Hall, I think, had that stinker with Stone Cold at WrestleMania before this, I want to say.
It wasn't as bad as you remember, if you haven't seen that in a while. But it was not up to par with, like, obviously, Rock Hogan. But
right. That's the worst part about it, is shared the same card as Rock Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, X-Pac just dampens any stable he's in during that time period.
Unless it's X Factor.
Yeah. Where does because this is fresh on it. Where does X-Pac's betrayal of Kane rate on your all-time betrayals list?
Oh, was it him that betrayed on Kane? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he I think X-Pac was one of the first people to make Kane vulnerable from an emotional standpoint, because he had Terry Reynolds.
Well, it was Tori.
It was Tori?
I think she just went by Tori. I forget what her last name is. I don't think that's actually her real name, but it's like it's like on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, you Google it. It's gonna bother me. So her real name is Terry Terry Pock, but her name was just Tori. She just went by Tori.
Okay, cool. That explains why all the mixed memories.
There's a lot of blondes in WWF in this time period, so it's easy for them to blur together. But yeah, I don't remember really that breakup, honestly. I remember Tori. I remember Kane, being emotionally invested in Tori, and that was the whole thing. I don't remember like the specifics of it.
It was heartbreaking, man. Because up till this point, Kane has always been the monster. He's had many story roles, but he's always been an emotionless, inhuman monster.
Mm-hmm.
And his tag team with X-Pac was the first time, in my memory, could be wrong, in my memory, the first time that he had been humanized.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Got him to say his first words.
Yeah. And
do you remember what his first words were?
Oh, I do not.
Suck it.
But yeah, so it was heartbreaking, man. It was when X-Pac turned on him, because it was like Kane really let his guard down to like a new level.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's up there, man. I think it's up there because it is a pivotal point in Kane's career.
Yeah, I think that was like right when I was starting to watch wrestling. So I don't know if I had the emotional investment at the time, but I've heard about it in hindsight. But the betrayal never stops because a few weeks before this show, NWO, they attacked Kane backstage with like steel pipes and whatnot. X-Pac gave him like a concerto. So Kane was like face down on the concrete floor, and X-Pac hit him in the head with a steel chair and then ripped his mask off. So that is why X-Pac is wearing Kane's mask here, which is quite the visual.
Yeah, you know, it didn't even occur to me. I mean, I saw it, but it didn't even dawn on me the levity of him wearing that mask.
Because he would return with the new mask with like the cutout of his mouth, and this is like kind of fresh off that. I don't know if you've seen this promo where it's like Kane, Hogan, and Rock in the locker room, and Kane's like, "Do you know which one I'm talking about?"
It's the comical one, right?
Yes, yeah, he's like doing Rock's catchphrases and stuff. So they're definitely humanizing Kane even more, which you could argue they humanize him too much, but then they would fix that quickly with the unmasking, in my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, but Kane's not here. He's still, I don't know if he's like shoot injured or what the deal is, but X-Pac has his mask on. And that's basically it. So the NWO is still kind of running roughshod, as they say, over the WWF, and Bradshaw is one of the guys kind of standing up to him. Outside of that, there's not a lot to this match. Like you said, the APA, they just broke up for the first time. But this is the first time where Raw, because the brand extension happened. So this is the first time Raw and SmackDown are under the same roof since then.
Mm-hmm.
So Bradshaw and Farouk meet up backstage. Hey, it's good to see you, pal. All that kind of stuff. And then so you have Scott Hall out there with X-Pac. And as the match is getting underway, X-Pac doesn't leave the ring. So it's like a 2-on-1 scenario. So this brings out Farouk to kind of even the odds there. But yeah, the one thing, my main takeaway about this match was big APA chants throughout a lot of it.
They broke the APA up at the peak of their popularity.
Yeah.
Similar to the Shield, except I believe APA had more in them, more in the tank, more to do.
Yeah.
APA is, in my opinion, peak of babyface Bradshaw. I don't think that's a hard thing. He pretty much was a heel for the rest of his career. This match was also during a time you could tell how abrupt the breakup was because Bradshaw and Farouk both made their entrance to the same music separately.
They had the APA tights and everything.
Yeah. By the way, underrated theme, by the way.
Oh, it's a banger.
And and this was a weird time where Bradshaw was in between like a beer drinking member of APA and stock market tycoon.
Right.
Yeah. It was a weird time, and I feel like that was one of the most notorious misses. The guys could have had more done. And to this day, like on Legend nights and stuff, when you reunite Bradshaw and Farouk, people still are excited for it. It's 20 years later. About the match specifically, I'm not going to lie to you. Scott Hall is a guy that I've, once again, never was really behind in ring style. I think his charisma and out of the ring personality way surpasses what he can do in the ring. And maybe I'm missing a generation, the Razor Ramon. And
I was about to say, were you not a Razor Ramon fan?
That was prior to my watching. Like I came around, like I started watching pro wrestling shortly after the formation of NWO. So yeah, NWO was fresh and hot in middle school. And so my real introduction to Scott Hall is part of the Outsiders, not as Razor Ramon. But even then, watching some of his matches, like his classic matches with the 1-2-3 Kid and Shawn Michaels and stuff, the only thing that I ever took away from it was his crucifix bomb. Was badass. Everything else, classic big lumbering personality in the ring, but that was his generation of wrestling too. It wasn't about the work rate for most of these guys. It was the larger than life figures. Completely understand that. But my introduction to pro wrestling, I was drawn to it through the personalities first, but then the work rate guys, you know, the cruiserweights and stuff. So seeing Scott Hall mix it up with Bradshaw for me really wasn't all that fun until X-Pac and Farouk were mixing it up on the outside.
Yeah.
And Farouk pretty much became a one-man lumberjack.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was Scott Hall, because he's well before I started watching as well, but I've gone back and, you know, in this podcast I review 94, 95 era where Razor Ramon's a top guy in WWF. And I can tell it's definitely kind of look at it in the shoes of somebody who's watching at the time. But if I was a kid watching Razor Ramon, like if I was in that generation, he definitely would have been my favorite character. I mean, he had such a cool character.
Well, Scarface, man. He was,
dude, it was, yeah. The music, the appearance, the presentation, it was all great.
Yeah.
Scott Hall, I mean, to me, he has some of the best punches that I've ever seen in their pro wrestling. I mean, him and Bradshaw both have really good strikes.
Yeah. It's because they really hit you.
Yeah, well, that'll do it.
That's why they look so good.
That's the key. That's the secret to pro wrestling. Just actually kick the shit out of your opponent. And that kind of provided us that sort of entertainment to where it was like smash mouth to like a hilarious extent. So that I enjoyed it for what it was, but I'm kind of with you. It didn't really suck me in that much. But yeah.
One takeaway, and this occurs a couple times, man. One of the key things that we complain about we will be complaining about in 2022. We were complaining about in 02 is that baby faces are fucking stupid. It's just, and I'm directly referring to just how easily they get distracted. The same problem that plagues current wrestling reared its ugly head multiple times throughout this pay-per-view. In this case, Bradshaw hit the clothesline from hell on Razor Ramon or Scott Hall. X-Pac got his foot on the ropes. So as Farouk is brawling with X-Pac, Bradshaw, of course, is distracted by the brawl, where it allows Scott Hall to get the did he hit a low blow, or was it just the roll up?
He sure did. No, it was
the low blow
to the
to roll up for the win.
Yep.
And that's a common theme back then. So that's a trope that if you're new to wrestling, if you're a fan that's came into in the the late noughties and 2010s, man, that's been a thing for a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely a classic, some may say, good or bad, but but yes, like you said, Scott Hall gets the win in a pretty forgettable match. But it's just interesting to see, like with the brand extension, they split up so many teams. The Dudleys are another example. They split them up. Reverend Devon actually was fairly entertaining for what it was. But that kind of left Bubba on his own. It's almost like they had plans for like half of the tag team. So like in this instance, it's like they really had faith in Bradshaw. He has a one-on-one match on a pay-per-view against Scott Hall, which, like, say what you want about Scott Hall, he's a big name. And then Farouk is just on SmackDown, just as Mark Henry's buddy. Then you have the Dudleys, you have Devon has his own character, and then you have Bubba on the other side, just in the hardcore division. So they were trying new things out, which
they did. Reverend Devon, though, was such a miss. That was such a miss, though.
It gave us Batista, so
it did. Although we probably would have gotten Batista anyways.
Yeah, you're probably right.
God, it was such a miss.
They tried, because Devon has like this charisma about him, but it's not like.
I just love that they were like, hey, you know how you say testify in all of those promos, the catchphrase?
Yeah.
What if we built an entire character around it? And but I mean, hey, look, I mean, we've seen other stuff come from worse that actually did work. So
yeah,
they tried.
But yeah, in terms of Bradshaw, just the one thing I'll say about it is that he didn't have a chance as a singles guy at this time, purely because he couldn't shed the APA gimmick or whatever you want to say. He has the APA tights on. He has the music. He has the Titantron. He has the same look. Like eventually, I think he goes to like short trunks and he's like wearing a cowboy hat, which is what he originally debuted as. Is right. Justin Hawk Bradshaw, wasn't that his name?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is Bradshaw was never supposed to make it. I forget the interview I saw, but Vince McMahon, had this huge stigma against Southern wrestlers. And so Bradshaw was quoted talking about um, APA were supposed to cut a promo. I think they were the acolytes at this point. I don't know if they were APA yet. Um, but Vince told Farouk to cut the promo because of Bradshaw's accent. Although Bradshaw, even though having a Southern accent, and I shouldn't even have to say the word even though, was extremely intelligent. And this is proven because of how financially successful he's become working the stock market and all these other things. So I guess it was a shoot. Farouk actually handed the mic off to Bradshaw to cut a promo against Boss's wishes.
Really?
Yeah, I mean there were signs that Bradshaw was never supposed to make it, regardless, but he did in spite of the setbacks that were put in front of him due to literally having a Southern accent.
That's considering, Stone Cold, Undertaker, among others. So,
And fast
funny in
forward,
hindsight.
almost 20 years, and Luke Harper or Brody Lee is being punished because he's a man from New York that cannot mimic a Southern accent.
Yep. It's some things don't change.
Yeah, man. Some things are very weird in WWF and E.
Yeah. And you're talking about roadblocks, you're talking about those obstacles people have to overcome. That is no more evident than the women's division at this point. So we got in this next match, the women's title is on the line. We got the champion Jazz versus Trish Stratus. Have you by any chance watched that Ruthless Aggression episode on Peacock about the women's division?
No, I want to say, well, I know I caught the Ruthless Aggression when it first came out.
Yeah, there's a second season now.
I saw that. So I have not seen that.
Okay, it's a good one. I mean, it's so like, I mean, you don't really learn anything new. It kind of just affirms what everybody talks about, how women didn't really get an opportunity at this point. But that being said, I mean, this match with the time that they had, I thought was pretty damn good.
No, I put that in my notes.
Yeah.
They worked a frantic pace. Like in my head, I was like, those women, they put as much. Let's say the match is 5 minutes because I didn't time it. I wanted to, but it was a short match. But they literally packed a full storied match in the very short time that they had.
Yeah. And they also had they have a storyline along with it, which is kind of a new thing for the women's division. Molly Holly is just recently turned heel, and she's doing the whole pure and wholesome kind of character. So it's kind of the juxtaposition against like Trish and like the bikini model type character that you would typically see, the puppies, some may say. So Molly is the opposite of that, which it's a heel. Clearly, she doesn't want to show her tits, so boo her. So that's the logic I think that's around the.
That was the time, man. That was the time.
That was on the whiteboard, but yeah. So the match is Jazz versus Trish, but Molly comes out first to basically say that they don't want their women's, or she doesn't. Molly says that the crowd doesn't want a women's champion that flaunts their body around. They want one that's pure and wholesome. And then Molly cheap shots Trish, gives her a forearm, takes her on the outside, runs her into the steps. And then Jazz comes out to basically pick the bones. But like you said, they like packed so much stuff in. Like Trish fights back. Like, pretty soon after
Trish
this.
was getting her stuff in, man, and
yeah,
there was the best term is there was no wasted movement. There was no rest holds. They went move for move. Neither of them missed a spot. That was like technically, this was one of the most impressive matches on the entire pay-per-view, and it was easily the shortest one because you knew that everybody involved realized like, look, we've got no time. Like, we got to do it this way. We have to do it sharp. We can't miss a beat. and they went out there and they crushed it. They absolutely did. It was fantastic. Watching this in my old age of 33, I appreciate this match way more than I ever could have had watching it live at 14. Like it was impressive what everyone was able to do in the time that they were done, like in the time that they were given.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have Trish busting out all of her moves, the chick kick, the Rana from the top rope. At one point, she goes for a Stratus faction, but Jazz counters it into a back suplex. So they're throwing in all these like false finishes in there too in this short amount of time. But ultimately, Jazz, she gets Trish in a Boston Crab. Trish almost gets to the ropes, but Jazz pulls her back and locks in an STF, a brutal looking one. The the S lock, the STFU,
yes lock. Yeah, I love how many people have had the STF as their signature or finisher.
I think it's just like a relatively easy one to lock in, but it looks so brutal. Like it looks like you're wrapped in a pretzel.
Dude, well, as a man who is way out of shape, just seeing the calf locked up and the person's full body weight drops down, I'm like, dude, my quad would tear. Like just on the body weight dropping down alone.
Dude, especially a big muscular chick like Jazz. Rip it right off.
Great storytelling too with Trish, babyface crawling to the ropes, getting pulled back, and then still crawling during the STF, only to tap out. Once again, all competitors told a great story in the time that they were given. Value per dollar. This is the best buy match on the card, just because there was no filler, man. No fat.
Yeah. No, it was exactly, like you said, no wasted motion. There was always something happening. And Jazz gets the win, retains her title, still looks dominant. But yeah, it was kind of the very early stages of the women's evolution, I guess. But they're getting more time than they did the previous year. I mean, we're not seeing a lot of, well, I guess we still are, but we're not seeing bikini contests every week. Sometimes the women wrestle, so.
It wasn't like Trish was like ripped out of her clothes and
and Trish isn't out there in like a bikini, so she has like long pants and she's wrestling. So
yeah, it's definitely like early signs, very early glimpses into what the best of what the women's division could become over the years.
Yeah, for sure. But man, what a transition. So we got that women's match happens. The next match is the debut of Brock Lesnar.
Let's talk about the recap though, because we just went on about how tastefully the women were treated.
I forget. Inform me of the recap.
Paul Heyman in the women's locker room on Raw.
Oh God, okay.
Playing with Lita's underwear. This is the thing is just as this match gave you hope that the women will be treated tastefully and with respect.
Yeah. That is hilarious. That didn't click in my mind as I was watching this, but it's like, man.
Yeah, Paul Heyman was in the women's locker room playing with Lita's underwear and essentially trying to bribe her to play nice. I don't know if I read this correctly. Was Matt Hardy the original opponent for Backlash, or was he just an opponent for Raw?
It was for Backlash.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Paul Heyman saying, we can do this easy way or the hard way, essentially. He's just, without coming out and saying it, he's just saying like, hey, let me fuck you. Otherwise, I'm going to have Brock Lesnar murder your boyfriend. That is what is being insinuated here, all while he twiddles fucking Lita's underwear in his hands and plays keep away as she tries to retrieve it. And obviously she's not going to play that shit. So she slaps him. Later on in the evening, Brock Lesnar F5s Matt Hardy on the steel ramp and causes the replacement match for Jeff Hardy at Backlash. Yeah, and then that's Brock Lesnar's debut as against Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
But once again, how tastefully the women were handled to what we really got for the most of the time.
And that's You're 100% on the money, and that's not insinuating. That's almost directly what Paul Heyman's saying. Hey, Lita, let's have sex. Let's have some intercourse, or I'm going to destroy your boyfriend. And lo and behold, they don't have the intercourse. Therefore, as per Paul Heyman, he's not a liar. Brock Lesnar destroyed Matt Hardy on the stage, and so that's why he's not wrestling Brock Lesnar, is because Paul Heyman didn't fuck Lita. So,
oh my god.
Yep.
No, Paul Heyman did it, not Brock Lesnar.
Oh well, who knows? Who knows what
Still,
Paul Heyman's plan was.
who knows? Maybe. You know what? No, I'm gonna leave that thought alone. Let's go on in the match.
Do you think there's a porn out there that depicts this situation?
I hope not.
The golden rule is if it exists, there's a porn of it. So,
God, it wouldn't surprise me. It would not.
It doesn't stop at the recap, because there's a line from Jerry Lawler leading into this match. He says, "I've fondled a thong or two in my day."
Jesus Christ, I didn't even pick up on that.
There's a lot of Jerry Lawler to pick up on, and a lot slides in through the cracks, so to speak. But yeah. So Brock Lesnar versus Jeff Hardy. Like I said, Brock Lesnar's debut match, and it's a Brock Lesnar showcase. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Although Jeff does get a decent amount of offense in, he actually does hit a swanton at one point and gets a close 2 count.
He got the greatest hits. He got the Whisper in the Wind. He got the Jawbreaker, or the split-legged jawbreaker, excuse me, and the Swanton. But no, he just got his ass handed to him.
Dude, it's young Brock Lesnar doesn't even seem human. I mean, he's still a monster, but just the I don't know, this is a different beast back here in 02.
Yeah, you know, one thing that's really cool about Brock's offense back then was they still, because it was 2016 that we got Suplex City.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, we essentially got Backbreaker City and Powerbomb City.
Yep,
is what it was. It just was never coined, because Brock still heavy on the suplexes, but to make up for the lack of originality, they would have him hit like triple backbreakers, and then including this match, along with several that followed up, they would have the match stop due to multiple power bombs, not even being pinned off of the F5.
Right.
And yeah, that's of course how this match went.
That's a cool little touch.
3 power bombs after the F5 to ref stoppage.
Yeah.
I remember this watching it live, because during this time period, Jeff Hardy was my favorite wrestler.
Mine too.
The Hardy Boys were. And it killed me, man. It killed me watching Brock come in and destroy everything I fucking love.
Yeah.
He really did.
Dude, he's because Brock Lesnar, I mean, it's weird to say, but like watching him in 2002, like in 2002, there weren't wrestlers like Brock Lesnar. There weren't guys that were big and athletic. Not a lot of them, at least. Nowadays, it's a little more common.
Not to his degree.
No one has ever been to his
not
degree,
even close,
in my opinion. But
yeah.
So he definitely stuck out, and I mean, the fact that he won the world title within this is May, and he wins the world title in August. So SummerSlam, yeah.
Over The Rock.
Yeah. So it's clear that they saw that in him, and they were right, because he's still going today. So literally about to wrestle at a pay-per-view in a couple days, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I put this on my show's Twitter. Obviously, today's Twitter, I got a lot of action on my show's Twitter today just because of watching this. And yeah, it's crazy to think that Brock Lesnar is actually 4 months away. So as of April 2022, that'll be 20 years since his debut. Yeah. Not the 20th anniversary.
Right.
Let's not make that mistake. But 20 years since his debut.
Yeah. No, it's and Jeff Hardy, obviously, with the recent stuff, he's not wrestling at this point, but it's crazy that, like a month ago, this was a feasible match that we could have seen like on SmackDown.
Oh yeah. It could have been, yeah, it had things played out differently. That could have been a match that WWE would have booked.
They could have played off this match. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man, god damn it. Now that's what I want, and now it's not what we're gonna get. Now I'm gonna be sad, but it is what it is. I was also sat here in O2 watching my boy Jeff get demolished. Like you said. And this, by the way, this is also fresh off that famous chair shot with Jeff hitting Brock. That was on Raw. One of the most sickening chair shots of all time. Have you seen that?
No,
you know,
no. What are you talking about?
Ooh, I almost want to like send it to you because I want you to watch it here.
I mean, I might have, but yeah, I have Twitter in front of me. If you can send it through Twitter.
Yeah, no, it's worth it. You got to have the sound on too. To Brock, if it just pops up on YouTube, there we go. All right, I'm gonna copy. I'm gonna send it to you.
All right, here we go. So, no, hold on. I'm just gonna fast forward to it right here. All right, here we go. All right, Matt Hardy, Jeff both got chairs. Jeff rocking a do-rag, kicked in the head. Matt, chair to the body. Matt kicked in the gut, blocked. Oh my God! Because he hit him with the top portion.
Did he?
I mean, there's no safe way to take a legit headshot back then, but he hit him with the top portion, which is like, oh my God.
It was loud, whatever he hit him with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I remember. Ooh, boy. All right.
That's a spicy one.
That'll wake you up, man.
So this is like a few weeks after that, and they kind of play to that in this match because at one point, Jeff, I mean, he knows what he's up against, so he goes out and grabs a chair, swings it at Brock, but this time Brock evades and lowers his hips and locks in an F5 onto Jeff Hardy. But that's not really his finish at this point. What his finish is power bombing him up a few times, and then one final, like, he sprints in a circle and then power bombs him.
Yeah.
Doesn't even pit him, just says, "Hey, ref, this guy's dead. I win." And that's pretty much what happens. So,
that's honestly, that's sorely missed from current product. Now, you do catch it actually a little bit in AEW with Bryan Danielson matches.
Yeah.
Where his opponents have either passed out due to the submission or got knocked out. More famously, who was that? That DDT and was knocked out by it.
Was
I
it
can't remember.
an AEW?
Yeah,
Was it Alex Reynolds?
possibly.
Was it? I know he got knocked out at some point. I don't know if it's the DDT.
No. Alex Reynolds got knocked out in just a match in general.
Yeah.
I meant Bryan Danielson knocked out a guy just from doing a tornado DDT, and the ref called it. It adds a little bit more legitimacy to some of the calls because it's like, guys, because in professional wrestling, wrestlers tend to only be knocked unconscious or go unconscious via submissions. Rarely do we see them go unconscious due to like a move or a strike, because a pin I don't really claim as like unconsciousness. It's just you can't get the shoulder up. So whenever you get a guy that, like Jeff Hardy, ate 3 power bombs, and the ref looked at him and was like, "No, you're out of it. Call the match." That, I think that really adds some longevity to a lot of your more intimidating wrestlers nowadays. Like they could do that more in the current product, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do like that it's pretty rare. I'm glad that's not overdone, but it is cool when it pops up, and it definitely enhanced Brock Lesnar at this point because it further set him apart from everybody else.
He made, like, when Brock debuted, he made every wrestler, and especially by the time he faced The Rock, look levels below him. Like, this is the Thanos of the MCU. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't matter if you're a good guy or a bad guy. Nobody was on Brock's level. And they had to cheapen it. They couldn't, obviously have anybody, because I want to say, like, he didn't. Do you recall whenever he lost the belt for the first time? In my memory, it was when Paul Heyman turned on him.
Yep.
With the Big Show.
Yep. Survivor Series.
He couldn't be beat by anybody straight up. Like, he had to be betrayed.
And even then, I forget what exactly it was, but I know Brock Lesnar went into that match with like broken ribs or something.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Paul Heyman gets involved with a chair, and then Big Show takes advantage. Like a giant has to be the guy that beats him. So, yeah, they really stacked the deck. They had to to get the title off of him, but yeah, we're off to the races with Brock Lesnar. That's for sure. And shout out to Paul Heyman too. I must say, this is kind of definitely his first manager role in WWE at least. And I think he adds so much to the presentation as well.
Yeah. My favorite roles of Paul Heyman has always been either his being on commentary with Jim Ross or Brock Lesnar's manager. Like those are just the two. I do think his role with Roman Reigns is going to be up there in the end.
For sure.
I feel like that's something really fresh, you know, because he really struggled to manage other guys. It was like,
Curtis Axel.
Yeah. Wasn't it like Michael McGillicuddy or something?
When Paul Heyman was managing him, that's when he changed to Curtis Axel.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was the same guy. So,
but yeah, Paul Heyman's most iconic roles, I want to say, is obviously Brock Lesnar's number one, and then you can let people dispute between Roman Reigns' manager or, in my opinion, commentary with Jim Ross.
Yeah, and in 2001, that was the perfect duo, especially with the invasion and all that. It just made sense. But
yeah.
I personally would have rather seen Heyman as a authority figure for the invasion, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, we got to talk about that some other time.
Yeah, for sure. But after that match, we got what may be the match of the night, in my opinion: Kurt Angle versus Edge.
Bro, SmackDown 6,
The
1/3 of it
of it.
right here, man.
This might be the birth of it. I mean, we're still.
My God, dude.
I had, for whatever reason, I didn't have a lot of expectations going into this. Just because the build had kind of been lackluster, and the only thing I remember about these two feuding is Kurt getting his head shaved at the next pay-per-view. But god damn, this match.
Well, this was Edge. Look, we just watched Raw last night because we're recording this on Tuesday following the Raw leading into day one. I don't know whenever you're gonna post this.
It'll be next week.
But look at it, 2002, the end of 2021. Edge doing the same thing, humiliating his opponents. Yeah. And he humiliated Kurt Angle with all of like the mocking, like "you suck" signs, having Kurt Angle read whatever he was reading on clipboards, and they had like,
I have no testicles.
Yeah. That's been Edge's MO for like 20 years, is just humiliating people.
Yeah.
But damn it, man. Being now off the top of your head, unless you have the notes in front of you, can you recite who the SmackDown 6 are?
So I might be wrong, but in my head it's Edge, Kurt Angle, Eddie, Chavo, Benoit, and Rey Mysterio.
Bam, got it, baby.
There we go. Look at that. Trivia King over here.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't sure if Chavo was a part of it or if somebody else was.
He's always the one that kind of gets forgot.
Yeah, the only reason I remember is because that Survivor Series that we just mentioned, they had that 3-way tag team match between those 6 guys, and that was obviously a banger. But they were having all these. This kind of goes back to the work rate transition, like how the WWE style is kind of evolving in this time period, and that SmackDown 6 was a big part of it because that's one of my favorite eras of wrestling, just in general, like ever.
Oh yeah, my favorite spin was the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah.
To be honest, I found it to be, for the most part, a great blend of work rate and like outlandish storytelling.
Yeah, especially in the context of the brand extension. Like Raw, would you have those like outlandish storylines, Katie Vick and stuff like that.
Vick.
It didn't all hit, but and then SmackDown, you got the Cruiserweight division over there. You got Eddie and all those guys. Plus, you got Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle on top. Like, it's just an Undertaker. Like, it's so good. But yeah, Kurt Angle versus Edge here is kind of like the spark for that. But yeah, it's funny because so this isn't the match. This is not the hair versus hair match. But I think it's SmackDown after this. They kind of set that match in stone for Judgment Day. And they do the whole it's almost the exact same thing. I don't know if you caught it. They did with Cameron Grimes and Duke Hudson on NXT when they had their hair versus hair match, and then Duke Hudson had like the graphics on the Titantron with like a picture of Cameron Grimes' head shaved. Edge did the exact same thing.
They did that on the SmackDown following this?
Yeah, or like 2 weeks after. But yeah, it was like Kurt went out to do it to Edge, but then Edge changed some things around and then made Kurt look bald, which in hindsight is hilarious because everybody's laughing at bald Kurt on the screen, but that's like what I feel like a lot of people associate with him nowadays.
With him now is iconic. Yeah.
He wrestled longer with a bald head.
With Stone Cold, there's a period of time like you see him with hair and it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Same thing with me. Like I have plenty of footage of me with hair, man. It doesn't look right now. Like
man,
with me
I can't
being
imagine.
bald.
Yeah. But hair aside, this match is great. Dude, Kurt takes one of the most wicked German suplexes I've ever seen. He lands right on his head. It's like in the beginning of the match too. I don't know if you caught that or not, but
no, I must have missed it.
That's got to be the beginning of the end for his neck because he would go on to have issues for the rest of his career.
Yeah, he did.
Brutal. But then obviously you have Kurt throwing his suplexes, classic Kurt stuff.
One thing I loved was this must have been new, or this must have been like, because Kurt Angle's been in the WWE now or WWF for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell this is when the crowd loved him and still jeered him at the same time because neither of these men were truly booed in the match. Kurt still got the "you suck" chance. But when Kurt was hitting his offense, people weren't booing him,
Yeah.
It was just the crowd was just legitimately invested in both Edge and Kurt Angle and were loving the match. And I feel like this was the crescendo, this was the peak of crowd enjoyment. This match was.
I would agree.
They loved every bit of it, and the action was fantastic. I know you're the play-by-play guy, so I'll let you go through that.
No,
but that was my takeaway was just even though Kurt was the lovable goof who Edge was dunking on, the crowd firmly loved Edge, but they also loved Kurt at the same time.
Yeah. It was because Kurt is kind of transitioning out of that goofy milk drinking heel into more of a realistic wrestler, a dangerous kind of legit shoot wrestler. It would take, he shaves his head and then when he starts going at it with Brock and stuff, it's like a whole new presentation. This is kind of the beginnings of that. But and I think the crowd's really, they can attach to that. They enjoy watching it, even though, and they could play into his heeledness with the "you suck" chants. It's pretty much the height of the "you suck" chants, kind of fresh off of starting. But the crowd loves Kurt. Crowd loves Edge. I think they would eventually tire on Edge a little bit, but we know how that ended up. But yeah, the match itself, all the counters and the false finishes were just so smooth. You got Edge
kicked out of an angle slam,
which at the time was pretty rare. I mean, it would go on to be it happens every match, but
kind of like John Cena's attitude adjustment.
Exactly.
And stuff.
Yeah. And kicking out of finishers, we're still in an era where that's not super common. Like you said, Edge kicked out of the angle slam, and Kurt kicked out of an execution DDT later in the match. So and the crowd bit on every false finish. So that really enhanced the match for me.
If I counted correctly, there was 3 near falls. Edge kicked out of the angle slam. Kurt got the ankle lock, but was rolled up and kicked out of that, which was the execution. And then Kurt grabbed a chair, hit himself off the ropes.
The old rebound off the
Yeah. And then Edge set up for the spear, but got punted mid-spear, and then allowed Kurt to win with the angle slam on a second go.
Because that type of spot, somebody running for a spear and then getting countered, I feel like people nowadays try to get too cute with it, too fancy. But the way Kurt literally just punted Edge's head off, it looks so brutal. It's so good, and that led to the finish.
Less
a believable.
Is more.
Yeah.
There's so many aspects professions, like in so many areas, real life and in entertainment, where just less is more, and
Yeah.
this was one of them.
For sure. Just kick a guy in the face sometimes.
That's all. Personal take, man.
Yeah.
Felt really good to hear organic cheers and less
Yes.
chants in this. There was no cheesy chants during this
Fight
entire match.
forever.
Yeah, exactly. There was
God.
no "this is awesome" fight
Shut
forever.
up.
Even though, like, sometimes I do like hearing that, but obviously now, going into 2022, they're played out. Like, just because it's just like any match that is like a 6 out of 10 gets those chants.
Yeah.
Just hearing people genuinely cheer, without like uniform,
Yes.
felt really nice and refreshing. Once again.
They reacted as a reaction, not to try to like be a part of the show.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It was organic, like you said. So, but yeah, Kurt gets the win. So after that punt, then an angle slam for the win. Really good finish, really good match, and yeah, like we said, the beginning of the SmackDown 6 era, which I am pumped to get into. But after that,
What'd you think of Chris Jericho's promo, man?
I didn't need it.
Really?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't need it.
Oh man, I took so many notes on it. I
Okay.
love it.
Here, let me know what you thought.
All right, so quick rundown. Oh, we get the thighs. We got Kyle's thighs.
Oh man,
the legendary Kyle's
the
thighs.
legendary, the mythical.
Yo, is this both video and audio?
Unfortunately, it is.
Man, for the audio listeners, I don't know if this is a thing yet because I'm a first time guest, but apparently on social media, whenever Kyle exposes his thighs, like some of the friends of the shows, like Matt Ritter on Smacking It Raw,
Yeah.
they make it out to be a big thing, and I just experienced it.
It's only the second time my thighs have come out, I think.
Those some high shorts, man.
They're like hiked up a little bit because I'm sitting, but
Bro,
Sometimes you gotta let the
like
thighs
there's
out.
those some like 80s basketball shorts right there you wear.
all right. They do have a huge ass hole in the crotch, like they're almost a skirt. So,
It's pretty bad because I didn't see nothing.
well, I'm not going commando. I have narwhal briefs on. Have you heard of me undies?
I have, yeah.
I have a dresser full of them. So,
Sick, man. Well, I'm just happy I got to experience this weird phenomenon that is Kyle's thighs.
I hope that's not going to be a thing.
Chris Jericho's promo. By the way, I'm a huge Chris Jericho fan. I believe he's one of the greatest of all time. And part of that legacy started with him winning the Undisputed Championship. So when he came out to give this promo, which was you could tell WWF at the time, and I'm going to call it WWF because they have not officially changed yet.
It is. That's true.
At the time, we're just like, look, we ain't got nothing for you, but yeah, you're a former world champ. Go out, do your thing, And I feel like he did what he could, man. He addressed the facts. 30 days prior, he was main eventing WrestleMania 18 as the first undisputed champion, who is the only guy to date to beat Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night. But tonight doesn't even have a match. And then he goes on to list people that he felt undeserving to have a match, like Trish Stratus and Maven.
And Billy Kidman. He's naming off these people. Like, I guess fuck these guys. I guess they don't deserve to be on the show.
He says, what makes him feel good though is even on his worst day, I'm still better than each and every one of you. Which I was like, God damn it, dude! You just had a feud with MJF.
Yes.
20 years prior, dude. That was like, wow, that segment, like, it still rings true to like current heels today. I loved it, man. And then he goes on to do earn his paycheck. And this is where Chris Jericho's a company man, is he put over the main event. He got the crowd into it. He says, does anyone even believe that Hogan deserves a title shot? Which drew a huge reaction because we're fresh off of Hogan Rock at WrestleMania. where Hulkamania is just getting his like fucking life support last surge. And then he goes on to essentially say, well, fat chance on Hogan winning tonight, laying out a precursor to what would happen in the main event. It was refreshing. I do feel like seeing Jericho 20 years ago and now, it kind of hits close to home to what alcohol does to the body, and kind of just like,
Well, it's also like what 20 years does to the body as well, you know?
yeah, but like 20 years of like, you could be 20 years as like a vegan who keeps yourself in shape and you'll stay skinny, or
Right.
you could be like 20 years who I'm a pro wrestler and a rock star, and you kind of blowed out a little bit, you know,
Yeah, you know.
because Chris Jericho's body has undergone transformations, and but damn it, man. It was dope seeing that, man, especially as a fan nowadays. But you said you could give fuck all about this.
Look, I'm not a huge fan of Chris Jericho in this era.
No?
I don't know what he's just so like pro wrestler. Like God damn it, I deserve that title shot. It was me. I'm better than you. You know, it's just like, why are you yelling? First of all, I guess he's mad because look, I did the way you laid it out. It makes sense. The way he basically built the main event, basically gave it a platform and made people care about it, made people anticipate it. And it makes, you know, because he basically, you kind of alluded to it, but only a month ago, he was in the main event of WrestleMania, and now he's not even on the card. So he's upset. I guess when I was watching this promo, I was like, oh, it's probably Jericho's not on the card, so they just want to give him some airtime. But lo and behold,
I
we're
felt
not done
like
with
it was a
Jericho.
mix of both.
Yeah.
I felt it was like a mix of like, you know what? Yeah, we do owe you a little bit, but you gotta give back. And I think it just, I might be reading into it like a bit much, but I think it showed A, his talent, and B, his professionalism.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm with you as far as Chris Jericho. I mean, the longevity, the way he's evolved over time, his body of work, his ability, like he's definitely up there as far as the best of all time, for sure. But this is like a weird like mid card era of Chris Jericho that like, I mean, we're not quite there yet because he still has that Hell in a Cell match with Triple H at the next pay-per-view. So, but yeah, it was fine for what it was. But
Yeah.
it was a good opportunity to go to the bathroom. So after that promo, we have the Intercontinental title on the line. The champion, Rob Van Dam, versus Eddie Guerrero. The crowd didn't seem into this one. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're following Kurt Angle and Edge.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I've learned one thing is like watching, you know, wrestling for as long as we have. And when you do great match after great match, some great matches you're not into because you kind of spent yourself on like a previous one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they struggled here. And then also we weren't in peak Eddie and RVD time either, I want to feel.
Yeah.
I wish I know, because I mean, do you know when was it, prior to this or after this? Eddie had his whole thing with China.
So that was a couple years before this. So
That was a couple years. Okay, that's
just
what I thought.
for context, so Eddie Guerrero has just recently returned, like within the past month, because he had that match at WrestleMania 17 with Test, and then it was like a month or two after they fired him, and because he had all whatever his issues were.
Yeah,
Did he go to rehab at that point? I'm not really sure what the story is.
I didn't really keep up with that.
Yeah,
I know the bullet points, but I don't know like moment for moment where he was at his career.
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, he had issues at that time. He pretty much he was gone the rest of 2001, so the majority of that year, and then until WrestleMania. And then after WrestleMania, he returned. But he returned. He didn't really have much of a character when he first returned. He was just Eddie Guerrero. He's here. He
You
attacked
can
Rob
tell
Van
by
Dam.
his entrance music.
Yeah.
Yeah, his entrance music was just the Latino heat.
Yeah.
but there was none of the huge character work that we came to love of his when he was really building that redemption leading into like with Brock Lesnar. You know,
Yes. Yeah, we're not at Los Guerreros yet. We're not at lie, cheat, and steal Eddie Guerrero yet. This is
Exactly.
still almost like a an aftershock of the stuff with China. Not even stuff with China, because there was a period in between China and lie, cheat, and steal Eddie where it was just kind of like he's just Eddie Guerrero. But when he returned here, he was like very much, he didn't have that charisma. Like he did, but not to the extent that he can, really. I mean, and it's funny because I cover ROH on my podcast too. And Eddie Guerrero wrestles on that first ROH show, which is around this time period. So this is around the time where he's wrestling in Ring of Honor a little bit too. He even shows up in Ring of Honor with the Intercontinental title, which is pretty funny. But it's funny. I even noted then how he kind of had like a it's like he wasn't sure of himself or something. I don't know what the story is, but he eventually.
I mean, when you're battling personal demons like that,
yeah,
you day to day, you know, it's hit and miss. You know, it's hard to be consistent, I think, is like the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
During that time period. I will say his match with RVD though was very smooth. That was my takeaway.
Yes.
Was the guys were very, very smooth together.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that much notes to take other than RVD's smooth as fuck float over suplex, which I posted a GIF of. Over
I saw
on,
that. Yeah.
My show's Twitter channel or Twitter handle, whatever. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. And also it was funny because like I totally agree with you. This match is super smooth, even though because the build up to this match, there weren't a lot of promos or anything. It was just pretty much, hey, here's the Intercontinental title match. And that might play into why the crowd wasn't super into it. But also on top of what you said, if you just have great match after great match, you know, you get a little burnt out after a while if they don't differentiate from each other enough. But there was one point where Eddie, I was expecting him to do the Three Amigos, but I think this is before he started doing that on a consistent basis because he hit a suplex and then it was almost like not as smooth as it usually is. He swiveled his hips, got back up, and then hit a back suplex, which is funny. It's like a precursor to the Three Amigos. It's
Right.
I don't remember a period where he wasn't doing that, but I guess he didn't start doing that until later in 2002. So it was interesting seeing little like building blocks of a career like that.
Yeah, and like I said, to see two absolute legends like Eddie Guerrero and RVD,
Yeah.
not at the peak of their popularity. You know,
Yeah.
it's always kind of odd because that's where they're held at nowadays. So when you see matches where people aren't reacting to that degree, it is a little confusing.
Yeah. But good match nonetheless. It was a sick sunset flip power bomb from Eddie to RVD. That just the way RVD bumps plus Eddie's just the way he moves with that type of stuff looked brutal. But that powerbomb only gets a 2 count, so that forces Eddie to go to the outside. He grabs the Intercontinental title. The ref tries to grab it from him, but he like trips himself up. And this allows Eddie to hit a neck breaker onto the title and then follows it up with a frog splash for the win. So Eddie Guerrero wins and becomes the new Intercontinental champion. And it's funny, as he's walking up the ramp, you can see that like Latino, like the Eddie that we all know kind of walking out. So it's almost like he's building that confidence up. Maybe that's the story of it. I don't know. But for what it was, I enjoyed the match for what it was.
Yeah, same here. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I've never really been the biggest fan of RVD's in-ring style.
Really?
RVD's to me has always had a weird. Some of the moves that he does, I think, look great. And then some of the other moves I think that he does look like unnecessary and jarring. Like the Rolling Thunder for one. Never been a fan of the Rolling Thunder because
he builds up his energy to lay onto his opponent.
yeah, kind of
Science.
like that. Yeah. So it was interesting. But then again, like I said, I'll freak out over that float over suplex he did, which was just like phenomenal. Like when I saw that, I literally was like, all right, what illegal site hosts these matches that I can start like getting gifts off of. And,
Yeah.
so I can post that shit to my Twitter. And it was interesting. It was very intriguing, like I said, to see two guys held in such high esteem have a match that went quite under the radar and underwhelming from crowd response. You know, it's an interesting viewing.
Well, they would go on to have better matches, I think, in the future. There is that one famous one. It's the ladder match on Raw where the fan interrupts and tries to knock Eddie off the ladder.
Yeah.
Do you recall that? I believe that was against RVD. So that's probably what people remember about their feud the most, unfortunately. But yeah, after that, so we got all these like kind of consistent, like great work rate matches, one after the other. And then we have this. So we have a number one contender match for the undisputed title. We have Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker with special guest referee Red Shoes Ric Flair.
And it was RVD, by the way. I just pulled up the clip.
Yes. Yeah. But
Red Shoes Ric Flair. So you caught that too, right?
yes. I saw you posted that on Twitter too. I was like, why? I guess it's boots that he wears, whatever, but that was a funny little.
Yo, okay, Undertaker coming out to Roland. What do you think of American Badass?
Oh, I love it. I mean, so it's weird. Like I wasn't like huge on it like the first year of it. I thought it was a little corny, but heel American Badass, that's something I can get into because that's where we're at now. That's probably my favorite version of at least the American Badass Undertaker.
What was it? He said, even though I don't dress in all black, that don't mean I'm not down with the Reaper or something to that degree.
That sounds pretty cool.
And I was like, you know what? Yep. American Badass. It's still the same Undertaker.
Yeah.
No, fucking love it. Stone Cold at this point has gone back to, I guess, his legacy theme. Although I'm not going to lie, Stone Cold's theme with Disturbed is still fantastic. It's an argument of like two legendary themes and only being able to pick one.
Yeah.
It was so good. I'm sorry to like hype this match for me was the most exciting match, I think. Ric Flair coming out, in the red shoes. Do you think about this match? I want to say I forgot how fast a pace Stone Cold could work.
Yeah.
And then I went on Google, excuse me, not Twitter, to see was this the match that Stone Cold got knocked out by The Undertaker, and no, apparently not. That was back in '99.
Yeah, SummerSlam.
Yeah, where famously, I think it was Earl Hebner told him, Stone Cold asked where he was, and Hebner said, "Son, you're in the garden."
That was a few years before this, but Austin and Undertaker, man, it's like whenever they wrestle, it's like okay to me. I don't think they have the best chemistry together, although this match probably is one of the better ones that they had.
To me, I felt like there was really like no lowlights to this match. I feel like there was a lot that worked. I will say this. Like the main event, I was much more into the second half than the first half. The first half, I was just crazy to see like Stone Cold doing arm drags and fucking toe holds or just I forgot that he pulled off that kind of stuff in his heyday. You know, it was fantastic. One of the most surprising things to me was that X-Pac sucks goes down in history as one of the loudest chants in WWF and WWE history. Is as much as the crowd could be into anything in professional wrestling, chanting Xbox sucks is still to this day one of the most passionate chants you will ever fucking hear, man.
There's a lot of divisiveness among the wrestling community, but that's one thing everybody seems to have band together behind. It's fuck X-Pac. He seems like a good guy though, but it's fun to say that he sucks.
Yeah, man.
But I should, briefly mention the build to this match, so Ric Flair is the GM of Raw. They're not calling it GM at this point, but that's essentially what he is.
No, he owns Raw.
I'm sorry. 50-50 co-owner of Raw.
He owns Raw.
Okay. We're on Ric Flair's Raw. And we mentioned this earlier, but the world champion kind of bounces back and forth between each brand. And I feel like they kind of saw an issue with that. It's like who gets to determine who's the number one contender. So they had that whole deal where, so on Raw, both Steve Austin and Undertaker pretty much had claims to be that because they both came off wins at WrestleMania, and they're Steve Austin and Undertaker. So,
Yeah.
And then on SmackDown, it was pretty much just Hogan. And this is when Rock left to go film the Scorpion King, and Rock beat Hogan at WrestleMania, but Rock came out on SmackDown and was like, you know what? I give this guy my blessing. Make him the number one contender. So you basically had a situation where Raw had two number one contenders.
How fucked up is that, though, by the way?
Is what, the Scorpion King? I didn't think it was that bad of a movie.
No, but The Rock to win, and then go, you know what? Even though I won, give this loser.
Give this old asshole a bone. Get this brown, leathery dickhead a title shot. It's, yeah. So that pretty much is why Hogan gets the title shot, even though he's coming off a loss.
By the way, is Scorpion King, is that the one where The Rock showed up literally as the Scorpion in the terrible CGI, or is that the movie where it was The Rock before he became the Scorpion King?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I've ever seen the Scorpion King, but because Rock was in The Mummy as the Scorpion King, and then they did a Scorpion King movie.
Exactly. The Rock was in The Mummy as the Scorpion King, which is heralded as one of the worst CGI bits in cinema history.
Yeah, this is the standalone Scorpion King that he's doing at this point.
I got you then.
Which did tremendous box office for whatever reason. I guess because of The Rock.
It's The Rock, man. Yeah, it was the precursor to like what we have now, like America's next fucking president.
Got a bottle of Terramana in my kitchen right now.
Oh my god! Dude. By the way, release a Anejo version of Terramana.
I've been trying to get my hands on that. It's sold out everywhere I go. Have you had it?
No, they don't have it.
No, they released a third one.
No way.
Hold on. Yeah. No, hold on. Let me make sure I have this right.
We're doing this at the same time. Terramana. Anejo. There it is.
Maybe it hasn't been released yet. No, I think it's out.
There is $47. $42. Okay, I'm ordering this shit. Reserve.com.
Yeah, I literally went to a tequila bar last weekend. They didn't have it. I was like, God damn it. You have one job.
I didn't think it was made yet. Like, because any in Virginia, do you guys have liquor stores, or is liquor available everywhere?
We have liquor stores, but it's not available everywhere. No.
Okay, yeah, same here then. North Carolina, ABC stores. But with Terramana, you can only get like silver and reposado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I've been able to find, but I haven't looked for it that hard, but yeah, I'm gonna have to try that soon. Yeah, you released it a few weeks ago. It's like Steve Austin finally released another beer because he had that goddamn IPA and only that IPA for like 5 years. It has a lager now, but it could be we do a little alcohol tasting podcast sometime in the future. Just wrestlers, various.
Invite me on, man. Invite me on.
I got my fiance as kind of a jokey gift for Christmas. I got her the Undertaker's wine. I've not tasted it yet. We're saving it for a special occasion.
It can't be good.
It's in the shape of a tombstone.
It cannot be good.
It's a cab. It's Cabernet. I'm a big cab boy. So
well, I have a hard time with wine to begin with, but
yeah, it makes me have the shit.
Yeah, I can do Pinot Grigio, but that's mainly because Pinot Grigio typically is strong. So after the first glass, no matter what you drink, it tastes good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm with you there. It's funny we brought up those drinks, but in this match, we have the Broken Skull Lager versus Dead Man Cabernet. I don't know what it's called. I think it's just called the Undertaker wine. But
I'm trying to piece this back together.
Pieces are mangled, but I'll tape them back together. But yeah, I mean, I think you set it up pretty well. I mean, so the build to this. So we have the 2 number 1 contenders, 1 number 1 contender. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, Undertaker and Ric Flair had their match at WrestleMania, so they obviously still have that beef. Steve Austin has been stunning Ric Flair on Raw because he doesn't like authority. With all this stuff with Vince McMahon, I guess he has PTSD now and he can't trust anybody. So,
dude, no, like Stone Cold can never have a boss again.
No,
I wouldn't be surprised. Like on like behind the scenes of like Broken Skulls, man. Like when a producer comes up and is like, "Hey, man, you're live in 5 minutes." If he doesn't just fucking crack his neck there, I wouldn't be surprised.
I would expect that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm like,
But yeah, the match is a brawl as per most of their matches together. There's some fighting in the crowd. They're kind of the beginning of the match. It kind of cracks me up because they're about to do the little tie up thing. So Austin has one hand up and then he just does this with the other hand.
That's the famous gif. You find that shit everywhere, man.
Yeah, I forgot it was this match, so I popped hard when I saw it.
Yeah.
The end of the match is when some shenanigans happen. So both guys are getting in their offense. Taker hits a choke slam for a 2 count. Austin fights back, goes for a stunner, but Taker counters and tosses him into Ric Flair. Remember, the referee. So Flair takes a ref bump because apparently he's not immune to taking ref bumps. So Taker goes out, grabs a chair, hits Austin with it, but Austin kicks out. And then Taker locks in his Dragon Sleeper submission. Do you remember what it's called?
Hell's Gate?
Taking care of business.
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty cool, right? The TCP. You don't like the TCP?
Oh, that's so bad.
Hell's Gate was the omoplata that he would adopt. And
yeah. That was
the late 2000s. But
I'm thinking of.
So but Taker. So what happens here? There's like so much shit that happens. I was like,
well, I have it here. I took notes because I wasn't sure if you do play by play or not.
That's whatever I'm feeling.
I had Stone Cold accidentally. It was Stone Cold stuns Ric Flair by mistake apparently. Taker hits the low blow, choke slam, near fall. Taker goes for chair. Stone Cold hits the low blow back, but eats an Undertaker big boot. Another near fall. Spine buster by Stone Cold. Gets a stunner reversed into that ref bump.
Mm-hmm.
Chair shot to Stone Cold. Another near fall. Stone Cold hits a Rainmaker.
What?
Stomps a mud hole.
What?
Goes to use a chair. Kicked in the face.
What?
Undertaker hits Stone Cold with, or pins Stone Cold with leg on the ropes.
Yeah, and that's the famous thing. So like you said, Austin gets a boot to the face with the steel chair up. Taker pins him, but Ric Flair does not see Austin's foot on the rope. Taker swipes it off the rope before Ric Flair can see it. And so Undertaker wins in a dubious fashion. As the dust settles after the match, both Austin and Taker are back up. Flair's out of there. He said, "Fuck this, I'm done with this."
Right.
And Undertaker is like mocking Austin, like, "I'm gonna be the champion. I'm the number 1 contender now." Flips him off, and then Austin gives him a stunner, and then beer celebration, all that shit that we expect from Stone Cold. And then they cut to the back where Jonathan Coachman catches Ric Flair, the coach. He's like, "Hey, Rick. I don't remember what he said, but he's like, did you see what happened?" And then Rick's like, "What? He pinned him." That's my Ric Flair impression. What? And then he luckily there's a monitor, like it's the fucking NFL, right by him, and Ric Flair looks at it and catches, because it's the replay of what happened, and he sees Austin's foot was on the rope, and then Flair just says, "Oh shit."
Just the line of the night, man. Line of the night.
Ah, shit. I was like, yeah, that's how I would react to probably.
You know what was funny to me was not only did we see Jonathan Coachman with an interview way back on the first match of the night with Tajiri versus Kidman, we also got an interview by Michael Cole.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Michael Cole back then with the jet black goatee.
Did he have the frosted tips in the show? I don't remember.
I didn't think to know.
I think he's beyond the blonde hair at this point.
I want to say he was. I feel like The Rock had bullied him enough into looking like a normal human being at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing Coachman. By the way, I love Coachman. I hate that his relationship with WWE soured to the point where he like publicly stated he would never do business with the company again, because I feel like Coachman offered something very good to the product. You know, I hate that he was always like, I don't want to say like he never graduated beyond like the punchline or the punching bag of segments, but there was something really nice to Coachman and Michael Cole as interviewers. You know, there really was.
I liked Coach as an interviewer. I was never a big fan of his commentary personally, especially his last run. His last run, it's like he tried too hard, and I think he does. Yeah,
I think he had moved beyond it at that point. You know,
I was about to say I think he's great at Sports Center, like that type of stuff. I think that's where his niche is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he tried to, like you said, to bring that style kind of back to WWE, and it just didn't click. But big fan of the Coach. Big fan of his in-ring work too. I think he had a couple matches against JR. I think he was in a Royal Rumble at some point, maybe a few of them. It's quite the athlete, this Jonathan Coachman. But and then we have a tag team title match that happened. So the main event is
hold on. No, hold on.
What's up? What's going on?
Of course, it would be Billy and Chuck with Rico as the WWF Tag Team Champions that get the opening entrance to the up-and-coming Tough Enough alumni, Al Snow, teacher and student Maven. Some bullshit, man. Listen.
Okay.
As controversial as Billy and Chuck were, there's a lot of controversy out there. I'm not going to touch on it. To be honest, watching them as a teenager growing up, they had great chemistry, man. They really did. They were a great tag team through and through. It just, you know, their subject matter. Of course, though, during this match, we would get the ugly reminder of just the mentality of professional wrestling back in the day. Did you pick up on the Rico's gay chants?
I did not.
Yeah, man. During the match, you can audibly hear the crowd. Rico's gay, which
it's 2002, man.
It's 2002. That's the thing. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, no, it was fucked up, man. Fucked up. Because Billy, listen, I get it. This is the palate cleanser, you know, of the evening. We got to get you from Stone Cold and
it's the opposite of
Undertaker
a fluffer
to, you know, Hulk Hogan and Triple H. You got to get something to reset the crowd. So I get that. But A, the champs still deserve the second entrance. And B, I guess you can't control the crowd. The chant was fucked up. But yeah, it is what it is.
You know, it's funny. Like in my memory, right before like watching all this stuff, Billy and Chuck, they were the gay tag team. Yeah. But when you watch it back, I mean, they're obviously very flamboyant, but they're not like kissing each other. They're not like humping each other. Like they're just like very flamboyant. It was always the
backstage segments. They would catch them like stretching in like a precarious.
You don't stretch your homies.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
sometimes you just gotta get in there and make sure all the knots are all loosened. Just a good tag team partner. That's why they're the tag team champions and you're not. So, well,
yo, look at that Billy Gunn though, man.
Yeah, still going at it.
In 2021, dude, you know, whether it was like a good healthy diet or something else,
it's a lot of protein.
It's a lot of protein.
Lots of chickpeas and kale.
Man kept himself in shape, man.
Yeah, he's yeah.
No, I just felt like a disservice to him. I was like, of course, this would be the one championship that gets the first entrance, opposed to the second.
You're pretty hot about that, aren't you?
Dude, I am because Billy and Chuck are an underrated tag team to begin with. Whether the subject matter offends you or not is a whole other thing.
They're like at this point in time, they're one of, if not the most entertaining act going on in the company.
Yes. Rico was a weird aspect.
That was a weird
to
addition.
everything.
Yeah.
But Billy and Chuck in a fucking bubble was a great tag team in my opinion. They
fucking
worked
bubble.
great, and it played into the match. It played to where the ref got distracted. Chuck came in, hit a super kick on Maven, and allowed Billy Gunn to pick up the win. It was a good match, like in a good tag team. No, I'm a big fan of Billy and Chuck, man. I really am. I am a big fan of these guys.
No, I am as well. And then on the other side of the coin, you have Al Snow and Maven, who, man, I can't, because they dub over his music on Peacock, Maven. And it's incredible how little I give a shit about him when he doesn't have that theme song. It's crazy how that works sometimes. Then Al Snow, we're far beyond head at this point.
Yeah.
He's the trainer, Al Snow. Then Maven, never really, I don't know. I guess maybe some people liked him. He is a good athlete, I guess, but
one of the best drop kicks. That's always been my takeaway with Maven.
Yeah.
He's got a really pretty drop kick.
I mean, any drop kick that can eliminate Undertaker from a Royal Rumble is a good one in my book. That's my measuring stick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a solid match. Like you said, it was a palate cleanser for the main event. But they did with it what they could. It's kind of in the same boat as the women's match, or like that division. It's like you get only so much time to do what you can. But
No, I mean it really was like go let the crowds like go buy some beer, some food, whatever, you know, and do your shit out here. It's just like I said, I hate that Billy and Chuck get shit on so much. You know? Like I really felt like given honestly just like the crap that they were given during their time period and stuff, I feel like they deserve more because they're a really underrated tag team in my opinion.
yeah, they were just really hot in an era that didn't have tag teams. Because think about it, they broke up the Dudleys, they broke up the APA, the Hardys are about to be broken up, Edge and Christian's broken up. I don't even know
The
what
New
other
Age
teams.
Outlaws, Billy and Gunn, and Road Dogg, yeah.
And it's where you have to have this makeshift. I mean, there's a relationship there. This is not necessarily a makeshift tag team, but like it's not really a tag team. And that plays a lot into like, but they're a memorable tag team, if nothing else. People remember Billy and Chuck, for better or worse. But like we said, that leads in to the main event, brother. The WWF Undisputed World Heavyweight title, that's a fucking mouthful, is on the line. We got the champion Triple H versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Why are we still calling him Hollywood Hulk Hogan at this point? He's not NWO anymore.
Yeah, that was the thing that confused me when I was taking notes. I heard him say Hollywood Hogan, but then he came out and was red and yellow.
I don't know. They didn't care, I guess. But it's weird seeing Triple H with the undisputed title. For some reason, I don't remember him having that version of the belt. I remember him having the two belts, but I don't remember him having the, like, I associate it with like JBL and
Big Goldie.
Is that what they call it? That's not Big Gold. Is it
No.
Big Goldie? Is that a different one?
Yeah, no, I could be way off on this.
No, Big Gold is the Ric Flair. It's the it's what Raw would have when they had their world title. Yeah. But this is like the what would be the WWE championship that SmackDown had. Yeah, because I associate that title with the SmackDown world title. And Triple H, I guess he's not really on either brand at this point, which is another weird thing because he was, during the draft, he was the world champion. So he never got drafted. So it's like, what brand is he on? But they're working out the kinks at this point.
I mean, Brock Lesnar is one of the bigger names
Yes. Kurt
to
Angle.
hold this belt, and where I see it makes sense. Yeah, no, this is a championship design that doesn't get much.
It's not one of my favorites. I don't hate it.
No, because you think about it, it's Triple H, Brock Lesnar, Hulk Hogan and The Rock held this, but then it was pretty much dissolved shortly afterwards in exchange for the WWF title or WWE title at that point, and then the big gold belt, the WCW NWA title that would go to their secondary brand.
Right, and then you have the spinner belt. Obviously, that's kind of when this version of the belt dissolves. Is when John Cena wins it from JBL.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that title's on the line here. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in the beginning. This is it's pretty much what you would expect from Triple H and Hulk Hogan. Very slow most of the match until like the last stretch. Why is Hulk Hogan doing an RKO?
Thank you.
That caught me so off guard. I was like, what the hell? I guess it's a diamond cutter at this point, but
Yeah, so I imagine that was more of an homage to the diamond cutter than the RKO, what we would associate it with now. Yeah, it was really odd.
fun fact, Randy Orton debuts like 5 days after this. So
Yeah.
it all ties together.
And Randy's finisher was god awful too.
The
Whole,
was
like,
the
foot
ozone.
over, like neck breaker thing.
Some guys did it. Like MVP did it pretty good. Oh my god, I just watched somebody do it recently. I don't know. It'll come to me. You know what? Matt Stryker did it really well. Do you remember him doing it?
No.
Well, that's the one thing he did well. But I didn't think Matt Stryker would come up during this match. But yeah, really great.
Dude, this match sucked. Let's be honest.
Look, I'll give it some props before we shit on it. I loved the intensity that Triple H had, especially like in the beginning of this match. He comes out soaking wet, as he usually does. He's pissed. Like
He's got the game theme.
Yeah, he's coming out there. He's doing the whole choke deal. Like he's just really like good energy in the beginning of the match, and then it kind of just fell off a cliff for a little bit.
Like, when he came back from that injury, he
Yeah.
looked like one of the most jacked
He's a cartoon character.
fucking wrestlers you've
Yeah.
ever seen. Like, there's no way this is the same Triple H, because there was a time when Triple H was always big for like a normal human being. But then, he at one point just became jacked. And I believe that was part of his comeback from the quad injury, was he just came back so upper body heavy, because obviously it was the quad that was injured. So he had nothing else he could work out on. And I believe that was part of his appeal. Then.
Yeah. It's an upper body business, brother.
Yeah, man. And you could tell in the finish, like after the match was over, because there was some body language. It was just like, yeah, that's classic Triple H there.
Yeah. But see the match, it's like, Triple H is working on the leg of Hogan for the majority of it.
Yeah.
But then we got a whole bunch of shenanigans to close out this match.
Look, dude, I got to talk to you about this.
Please do.
I got to talk to you about this. So, for one, the ref is what? Tim White, right?
Is it Tim White or Earl Hebner?
I think it's Tim White.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
All right. Jericho comes out, hits Tim White, preventing Hogan to win or Triple H to win, one or the other. Hits Hogan with a chair.
Yep.
Triple H, once again proven, because he this is the thing, man. Oh my God. He's the cerebral assassin, but not even Triple H, when he is a baby face, which him and Hogan both are in this match, prevents him from being a dumb shit.
He has pride. He doesn't want to win the match that way. He's the game. He would never stoop down that low.
He gets distracted, allowing Hulk Hogan to Hulk up. Hogan misses the leg drop, right? He eats a pedigree. Undertaker comes out, also hits Tim White. Just
because fuck Tim White, I guess.
This ref is fucked, man. Takes a chair to Triple H. He takes Hulk Hogan, drags him over to pin Triple H. Hogan doesn't want none of that because he's a baby face. So he attacks Taker, but then turns and hits Triple H with a leg drop anyways.
Well, he's already down. You might as well. I mean, wait, you gotta wait for him to get back up? You gotta get back.
The commentary completely put it over. He doesn't want to cheat to win. He wants to earn this. So he fends off the Undertaker, but still takes Triple H, who's still prone from the previous attack, and decides, you know what, let's hit him with that leg drop. Fair play. Triple H had done the same thing with the pedigree. Ends up winning the belt. Becomes, by the way, the third ever undisputed champion.
Correct.
One of those accolades that kind of gets lost in this whole mix. They share a handshake. Triple H gives his most intense flexing.
It's like his lips quivering. I fucking get myself a headache right there. I don't know how Triple H does it.
He just kind of like lightly blows his lips into the wind. Gives a finish to this shit match, if I might be honest with you. But
Hulkamania is running wild. I don't know what shit match you saw.
Hold on, listen. I love me an overbooked finish, like I said. So seeing the Chris Jericho come out from the promo earlier, trying to prevent Hulk Hogan from winning, Undertaker really came out of left field. Maybe I missed something there. Triple H, and Hulk Hogan, both trying to appear like they're baby faces, but clearly taking advantage of the situation.
Look, what else are you gonna do? These variables in Jericho and Undertaker, they didn't expect this. They gotta play with the hand that they're dealt. So,
oh man, what it just like I said, this is a match. If this took place in 2021. Oh, the IWC would just have.
You don't think they'd like it? It's Hulk Hogan's so old. Like, he's not, though. He's only in his 40s at this point, which is insane. He's only a little bit older than AJ Styles is right now.
It's just his style of athleticism
is not
left
having
him
it
to be a very stiff, large human being. You know what I mean? It's just his arsenal was very limited because of the type of exercise that he went through. And it's really boring if you look into it like that. But I mean, you're right. It's weird because Hulk Hogan was never really that old, but at the same time was really old.
He was old in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, man. And God, what a weird!
Just all those leg drops.
Was this? I got to ask you, Kyle. Was this Hulk Hogan's last World Championship match or reign, rather?
I believe so. I hope so.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it was, unless he like won it in TNA or some stupid shit like that. But I don't think he did.
I don't count that.
Yeah, no, I believe because he would lose it to Undertaker, and then he wouldn't be back. He'd do like the whole Mr. America thing with Vince McMahon, and that had that whole feud.
That was fantastic. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really was a fan of that.
I watched that WrestleMania match from WrestleMania 19 recently, and it's still great. It's still a great match. Weirdly, it didn't deserve to be, but it was. But what was not a great match was this one. But it was, whatever. Hulkamania's running wild here. The fans love him for some reason. This is before all the racism and his big dick were caught on camera. Fucking Bubba the Love Sponge's wife or whatever.
They capitalized. Let's be honest. Yeah. The fans really got behind Hulkamania.
It was organic. It wasn't supposed to be that. Yeah.
They just. It was that classic case of nostalgia working, We recently went through this. Have you seen the most recent Spider-Man movie?
I have not.
You have not?
No.
Well, let's just say if that movie did not have nostalgia, it would not work at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an idea of things that happen, so.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's, without blatantly spoiling it, it's already spoiled. But
Voldemort killed Snape, right?
Yeah.
So.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, They capitalized. They capitalized like there's no other period where Hulk Hogan would have worked winning that belt again. Not saying WWE would ever be above doing that again, but
right. Well, he's still alive, so you can't count it out.
Yeah. When's the last time he wrestled, man?
I think he wrestled on some random, like, independent against Ric Flair, like, not that long ago. I want to say it was like 10 years ago. No, it was probably less than that because he was in TNA 10 years ago, and he was wrestling all over the place there. He had a match
2006 against Randy Orton in SummerSlam.
So WWE, that was his last match, I believe. But he wrestled in TNA a few times. I know he faced Sting at Bound for Glory like 2011 or something, I want to say. Because that was around the time I stopped watching TNA. I was like, okay, what are we doing? And he's wrestled, I think he's wrestled a few, like, not indie, but like lesser, not WWE. But that him and Ric Flair, those are some guys that'll wrestle till they die. So
at this point, reports come out of Ric Flair just saying, like, look, I'd like to take a bump. And not talking about a bump in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like a wrestling bump.
Ric Flair wants to die in the ring. I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah, me too.
But I guess
I can't blame him, though.
Yeah, I mean, what better way is there?
I can't blame him.
Take a Canadian destroyer or something and lights out. Bing, bang, boom. Stretcher him out. So, on that note,
God.
I hope I don't get any backlash for that comment. But speaking of Backlash 2002. Do you have any other last nuggets on this show?
Not off the top of my head, man.
All right, well, fuck you then. So, I'm just kidding. But yeah, thank you, man, for making the time to come on here and talk about this show, for watching it and all that. It's been a great time. Where can everybody find you and listen to Smacked Raw?
So, Smacked Raw. For one, follow us on Twitter at Smacked Raw Pod. And then you can find us on YouTube at smackedrawpodcast.com. Whatever it is. And pretty much all your audio platforms you can find us at too. Every Sunday we try to do the rewind, myself and RN. That's kind of our new thing. And then make sure to follow Bama at Bammer Slammer. He comes out with a whole bunch of content himself. Smack Draw is kind of like this conglomeration of just 3 guys throwing together content under one banner at this point.
No, it's great. It's a lot of variety, and you guys do different stuff over there, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But once again, youtube.com/SmackDrawPodcast, where you can find us. And then if you ever want to support us on PayPal, paypal.me/SmackDrawPod. And then Patreon, patreon.com/SmackDrawPodcast. We'd appreciate any support you guys have. Everything that you guys give us goes back into the show. Sorry, my throat is so hoarse at this point. And then I'm not going to lie. Going back and talking about Backlash, I'm not going to lie with you, Kyle. Been throwing them back. The backlash of this tequila tonight is catching up with me. I didn't expect to have to plug all my stuff, man. But hopefully you'll
find me on MySpace at
Hopefully you can include it in
I'll put it in text form
or the comments if I can't recall it off the top of my head.
I'll tell everybody to disregard everything you said.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's always fun, dude. I've looked forward to this. This was honestly a blast.
Once again, thank you to Kyle from the Smacked Raw podcast for joining me on this WrestleMania Backlash show. Awesome time, awesome show. Like I said, very underrated show in my opinion. Just a very weird era for the WWF, a weird era for wrestling, honestly. And we see that. And, I talk about that a lot in my Ring of Honor timeline as well, because it's kind of a similar timeline. Just a transition period for all of wrestling fans and all of wrestling. So once again, give Kyle a follow on Twitter at The Kai Tai Show, and give the Smacked Raw podcast a follow on Twitter at Smacked Raw Pod. Once again, that's a Smacked Raw podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. You can check out their live shows on Twitch. Check them out on YouTube. All of the usual suspects. So go check them out. And hey, check me out too at apronbump.com. You can find all of my full episodes there. You can go to the episodes tab at the top. You can select a timeline or a promotion of your choosing and binge away. That's where you could find wherever you want to listen or watch me. Subscribe to my YouTube. What else? What else do I need to plug other than my urethra? I think it's about it. So yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. I'm recording this. I don't know when I'm going to release it, but I assume it's around some sort of holiday. Whether it's Christmas or New Year's or fucking Leif Erikson Day, something. Hopefully all your holidays have gone or are going well. Most of you, at least. Some of you, you can have shitty holidays. I don't really care. Just kidding. Anyways, that's about all I got. Thank you guys once again for listening. God bless America. Or wherever you're listening. God bless that place too, I guess. Unless you're in Canada or some shit. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Okay. All right, I'm going. Sorry, you hang up. Thank you guys once again for listening. I'm hard.
Yeah. And the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess. Let's get started.